Okay, so to start the meeting, could we have nomination for the chair?
I nominate Councillor Ellie Goring.
Okay,
Second that.
you second that? Okay, there we go. Over to you, Ali.
Good morning and welcome
Hey.
to the meeting of the licensing panel. I'm Councillor Ali Gordon-Creed and I'm chair of the panel. Councillors Peter Dragonetti and Sam James Laurie will join me today on the panel. I have a few statements to make before we proceed with the meeting. Please can everyone ensure that their mobile devices are on silent during the meeting. In the event of fire, the exit is that way, but our democratic services officer will guide us out. And the meeting will resume once things are clear, if there's a fire or not. If you have a question to ask in the meeting, please raise your hands. Please do not speak unless you're invited to, and please do not interrupt other speakers. Do we have anyone joining us remotely? Are there any questions or any other issues which we need to address before we start? None? Right, so the procedure of the meeting was included in the agenda pack. Is everyone okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I will begin. We're asked to consider an application from Goring Cricket Grounds for Thames Cricket Club, Thames Cricket Club. So I will proceed with the licensing officer's report.
Thank you very much. So normally the licensing team would make a decision on any report if no representations have been received, but in this case an application, a valid representation has been made from a member of the public who lives nearby. So this matter has to be referred to the licensing panel under section 18 of the Licensing Act 2003. So what I'm asking you to do is make a decision once you've heard from all parties to whether it was to grant the premises license as applied for on the application form, to grant it after modifying or adding any conditions which you consider appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. I'll talk about those in a moment. Excluding from the license any of the licensable activities. Well, there's only one licensable activity applied for, the sale of alcohol. Although I would say that it's for consumption on and off the premises, so you could limit one of those. To reject the persons put forward as a designated premises supervisor, or to reject the application. So just a reminder for all parties that the licensing objectives which we are promoting is the prevention of crime and disorder, keeping the public safe, preventing public nuisance, and protection of children from harm. So on the 8th of May, so going into the report, on the 8th of May 2026, we received an application for a new premises license submitted by Richard McNeil, who sat over there, on behalf of Goring on Thames Cricket Club for their cricket pavilion. And you can see a copy of the application form is attached at Appendix A. So the application was for the sale and supply of alcohol 7 days a week between the hours of midday and 10 o'clock in the evening. And going to the application form, you will note in the operating schedule, part 3, which is on page 11, Mr. McNeil has explained a little bit about the application. And then in section M, he has suggested the steps he was going to take to abide by the licensing objectives. I turned those into licensing conditions, which have been previously shown to Mr. McNeil. He has accepted them, and they are attached at Appendix B. So no representations have been received from any of the responsible authorities, the police, environment, or health training standards, and like that. But one representation has been made from a member of the public, which is attached at Appendix C to your report. So I will just turn to that now. This is from a Carolyn Armstrong. I have been in touch with her, and I'll come on to that in a moment, but she is unable to attend the hearing today. So she's written quite a long email. And she talks about the land being bequeathed and the covenant being on the land. I'm sure Sarah will give you instruction while I'm out, but it is my understanding that the Licensing Act is a standalone piece of legislation, and you cannot take that into account, whether the covenant. It's the same as a planning restriction. There. If you issue the premises license, it may well be that they're unable to use it because of a restriction in place, but it can't prevent you from issuing the license. You can only refuse on the licensing objectives that we've already happened. It talks about certain, let's say, little effort was made to inform the householders. The Licensing Act is quite prescriptive in how an advert should be placed. It has to be placed in the newspaper, and has to be at least one blue notice put around the boundary of the site. That was complied with. The fact that nobody reads local newspapers anymore cannot be taken into account. That is the law as it stands at the moment. Right, she then goes on to about a rise in crime and disorder, and I'm sure that you've probably got some questions for the applicant about that. The fact that it might be become a target of break-ins is only can't be taken into account because it's the sale and supply of alcohol which lies through the leads to a rise in crime and disorder. So actually store it on the premises isn't, although you might like to ask what steps they have taken. So the use of the pavilion in the late evening noise, which could lead to a public nuisance, the nights and noise, that is a valid point that you can take into account. Car parking is not something you can take into account. Right, so last week when I asked Ms. Armstrong whether she was going to attend, she replied to me saying she couldn't make it, and she sent me a further email. Which
I suppose we should actually confirm whether the applicants are happy for this to be introduced to. And the chair just needs to be content that it's distributed.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Could we read it first and then decide? Yeah.
Well, you can read, yes. I mean, it will ultimately be the chair's decision,
Of
but
course.
yes, if you could just have a.
in my view, it's just contains supporting material from items she's already raised, and doesn't include anything new, which is
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realise you were going to be here. So
No, because we can share. We actually thought to be fine. Yeah.
On that. And no objections.
It's
So
fine.
I'll just talk about what she has written there. So obviously some of the issues she raised can fall into several camps. They can be considered crime and disorder and public nuisance as well. We've already talked about the application, how it was advertised. The notices were up there for the required period, which is 4 weeks. It is unfortunate that the email address was missed off, but it's not a requirement of the Act that an email address is given. And there is directions in the blue notice on how to find further information. And I'm not, yes, I did reply to her, which I've included in there. I've got no particular comment to make on that at the moment. And you will also see attached into Appendix C is a reply from Mr. McNeil for when he was sent Ms. Armstrong's response to say that he has actually got permission from the trustees to sell alcohol on them.
May I get just a bit of clarification on so we can so if we were to issue the license to say yes,
Yeah.
the covenant could still
Prevent
Prevent
alcohol being sold. Yeah,
It's, yes, I mean, the licensing officer is absolutely correct. It's as with, if you have a planning application and there's a private law restriction on a covenant on the land saying it can't be used for whatever they're looking to use, but they're clearly discrete pieces of legislation. So yes, they could be prevented through some other, if they hadn't got permission from the trustees, that could be another means of stopping the activity, but it's not for you as a licensing panel to decide.
so basically completely disregard the covenant.
Yes, and similarly with planning, although planning are a consultee on licensing, they are again discrete legislation. So if there was something to do with the use that was contrary to the planning on site, planning would be looking to take enforcement action at the extreme, or getting it regulated, but it's not, that is not a decision for you today.
That's fine. Another bit of clarification. It says all refuse and bottles shall be disposed of in bins quietly as to do not disturb local residents. There will be no disposal of glass bottles outside 9 o'clock. So what's the plan if it was granted, considering they'll be serving up till 10?
I wonder, have you actually
Because
got any more of your report to do? I'm just wondering if this might put on as
Supplementary questions.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry to put.
No, that's all right. I just
follow the order. It might be.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's Appendix C dealt with, other than I did think while she's been talking that I did point out in my reply to Ms. Armstrong that she does have, along with anybody else, have the right to seek a license to be reviewed afterwards if we can evidence problems do arise. So the other appendix is Appendix D, which is a map showing the location of the cricket ground in Goring, and there's a dot showing a rough location of the respondent's address. And actually, while I'm talking about maps and plans, I need to just explain something about the plan that accompanied the application, which is at the end of Appendix A.
Page 18 or 25.
Yeah, it's page, oh, I've got page 19, but there. So they're asking for the license to cover the building area and the small area just outside, remembering that the app can only consider the sale and supply of alcohol, not the consumption. So consumption can take place outside of that area, anywhere on the cricket pitch, or indeed away from the cricket ground. And we might like to ask the applicant their plans about this. So going back into the main body of the report, section 4 talks about policy and guidance you can apply to when making your decision. So refers to the Secretary of State's guidance issued under 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, and it explains what you should take into account when making your decisions, and also relevant case law. So section 5 says that you've got to give weight to the relevant representations received from other persons, the Secretary of State's guidance, the Council statement of licensing policy, and the steps appropriate to promote those licensing objectives. And therefore, just to reiterate to sum up, I am asking you make a decision whether to grant the license that's applied for, grant it with any additional conditions or changing the suggested conditions that I've put forward in the report. So you could limit the scope of where the sale of alcohol takes place. I don't think letting the designated premises supervisor is relevant, or rejecting the application outlined.
Thank you, Richard. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yes, have there been any further correspondence from anybody to
No, there's been no, yes, nothing at the time, yes, because obviously all applicant comments have to be included, have to be made within the 4-week period, so we didn't receive any late ones.
Fine, thank you.
Move on now. Not yet.
I think it's had.
Did you have a question about bottles?
Sorry.
Okay, so we do that now. Yeah.
Yes. So I had a question around they'll be selling alcohol potentially till 10 o'clock. Bottles can't be disposed of past 9 o'clock. Is that changeable at all to make?
Yeah, that's also is, yes.
Okay, because if they can, if it's granted and people can drink around the field, in essence, if they were to say have a cricket tournament and drinks bottles were left out on the field and they were to be gathered up, how would they be disposed of? Because just leaving a bunch of
that's normally taken to mean mass disposal of bottles into a bin, which is very noisy. That's what.
Yeah,
it doesn't prevent clearing up.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just wanted to clarify.
One further question. You this is a cricket club application, and the application covers 365 days of the year.
It does.
Between 10 in the morning and 10 at night.
Midday and 10 at night. 7 days a week.
Yeah,
So-
so this alcohol be served, irrespective of whether there's any cricket going on.
It could, as that application was made, that could happen. I would suggest perhaps that you'd like to ask the applicant what their plans are,
Yeah,
and maybe in your deliberations consider whether you would like to put any restriction on that. Your perfect liberty.
okay,
To
thanks, Richard.
In the application, it implied, and I don't know if this is a question for you guys or you, but there are other activities in this pavilion. It's not just cricket. I understood the users are not just cricket people. Is that correct?
that would be
That
for
was- yeah, sorry, yeah.
the cricket. Obviously, sale of alcohol can go to other persons. The designated premises supervisor, which is Mr. McNeil,
Yeah,
is
no, it
responsible
was-
for all sales.
It was more who else was using it, because the cricket pavilions that I'm familiar with, there are no other activities apart from cricket.
Sure.
So that's a question.
Would you like me to answer now or?
No.
Maybe pick it up in your presentation and be available for questions on it afterwards.
So are we
That's
we
fine.
done?
Yep.
Any more questions for the officer? And are we okay to move on to
Yep.
the report?
Just checking you didn't have any questions for the licensing officer.
No.
So we'll-
Okay.
Yeah, get you.
Thank you for your time this morning. I'll just introduce who we are and what we'll discuss with you. So my name is Johnny Russell. I'm the chairman of Goring Cricket Club. And with me today is Richard McNeil, who we've heard is the designated premises supervisor. He's also our club welfare officer. So we're both members of the club committee. Brief overview of what we'll cover. I'll give a short background on the club, the purpose of having a bar within the pavilion and sale of alcohol, talk about our collaboration with the local parish council, because that's very important, and then explain our planned usage of our facilities. And then Richard can provide the overview of how we've addressed the licensing objectives and specific points addressing the representations made. Firstly, the background to the club. We're essentially a village community club. Got a very successful junior section, so an academy of about 250 juniors, mixed girls and boys, and about 50 senior members. We're also in our 150th year, so it's a year we're very, very proud of. We've got some separate centenary events happening later in the summer. So the purpose of having a bar in the pavilion is to sort of build that club and community feel, and provide a place for members, parents and supporters to gather and socialise linked to cricket activity. So any funds raised from operating the bar will be used for reinvestment into the club and the facilities for the cricket club and members. Importantly, this is not for used to be targeted at the general public in so much as we will only be opening it in respect to cricket related activities. So whilst general public would be very, very welcome to come and use the bar as part of sort of supporting and viewing those cricket activities, it's not something we'll only open during those periods of cricket activity. Onto the local parish council. They are very, very supportive, and without that, we wouldn't be able to be where we are today. Over the last 12 months, ourselves and our local parents and members have been very supportive in helping us build sort of what is a small but actually very beautiful bar within the pavilion building that we're very proud of. And we've been discussing throughout that time with the council our plans and have their support. It is the council's pavilion, so we don't own the ground or the pavilion, and they are the trustees that guard the recreation. We have a license to use council facilities from late April to early September. That license includes sale of alcohol, as long as it's done in accordance with the licensing regulations. importantly, if we wanted to use the facilities outside of that period, we have to receive pre-approval on each occasion from the parish council. They're aware of the status application and the hearing, and actually the chair of the council, Sonia Lofthouse, said to me a couple of weeks ago she would encourage anyone to pop down on a Friday evening and when we have our All Stars, which is sort of our 5 to 8 year olds, and see sort of the 60, 70 kids running around playing cricket, and just the great community feel of having all their parents there early evening on a Friday and on a summer's evening, how proud she is of seeing that within the beach. In terms of our planned usage, well, it's in line with that. The timing is when we're allowed to use the pavilion facilities with the council. So late April and September, but to the point I made before, only when we have cricket activity taking place. So it won't be every day of the week, and typically, whilst the application's midday to 10, it's typically late afternoon to early midi. We actually, in our draft application that we submitted for review, it had more refined hours, but we were advised to make it simple and have the full midday to 10. So it won't be open from day to day for general use. It'll be purely for cricket. So if I hand over to our designated premises supervisor.
Yeah, thank you, Johnny. So yeah, as the DPS, I've implemented all the policies of the bar to meet the 4 licensing objectives. We've done quite an extensive set of training for our volunteers who are running the bar. There's about 15 to 20 parents that have been stepping forward to take on that role. The training covers obviously the 4 objectives, but in detail, we have extensive record keeping of incidents, of refusals, and obviously with documentation about the certificates for that training, all kept on site, all available to be reviewed at any point by a licensing officer. We have CCTV in place, multiple cameras which are recorded and can be accessible immediately to any appropriate request from a police officer or a licensing officer. So those are running 24/7. We have the adequate signage, of course, around weights and measures, around keeping noise down, all of the requirements as laid out in the policy. And we have a very strict Challenge 25 policy. No alcohol to anyone under 18, no low alcohol or non-alcohol beers to anyone under 18 because of the image it portrays. That's our policy, even though it's not mandatory by law. And obviously the set rules around challenging under 25-year-olds, appropriate forms of identification, and the policy of no ID, no serving of alcohol. So our volunteers are all very clear on that. Good luck. Specific steps we've taken, as Johnny says, only ever open related to cricket matches or cricket coaching, not for general public usage. Hence, only a small number of nights, evenings or afternoons per week are likely to be used. We only operating during daylight hours outside. We have to stretch into a late evening forever at 10 o'clock. As per our license, the consumption would go indoors. That's our policy. We have no intention of amplifying music outdoors. Nothing more than a quiet radio behind the bar is the only noise we're really making in that respect. We have no desire to turn this into sort of a glorified festival. Litter management, as to some of the points that were raised earlier, all done internally and on site. Everything is the storage of the refuse is taken off, is managed internally indoors, and it's removed on the same day. So there's very little litter left on site as per the council's request to keep things acceptable to the other clubs that use the facility. That we don't have exclusive rights to even the bar area. We have to make sure that we keep it clean and tidy at all times. And the parish council are quite strict about that. And I'd also like to point out that over the last 5 years, we have applied for multiple Thames licenses. I would have thought dozens, perhaps. I'm not sure the exact number. And we've had 0 issues of poor management or nuisance or complaints from local residents. We're a very considerate club in that respect, and we take pride in the fact that we are part of the community operating in the silo. So if there's any specific questions on any of those points,
One, you said you don't have exclusive use of the bar area. So do other people then also have permission to serve alcohol out of cricket?
so the answer to that is currently no, they would have to take care of their own licensing. The policy of the council is that space is the whole space is a shared space, changing rooms, the toilet facilities. We can't have exclusivity of that space.
Yeah.
But there's obviously a practical element of that. If they want to open the bar to serve coffee and tea, we would discuss with them what's an appropriate way to keep our alcohol secure, licensing objectives maintained, but still give them access to the space.
So that was my next question is how is it kept secure given that other people have access?
Sure. So there's an external lock to the building, which
No, I meant in the bar area.
understood. So there's that external lock. Then the bar itself is secured with a fire shutter and a fire door, which has a coded lock on it. So access to that is restricted to a small number of people. And within the bar, the fridges also have locks on them. So we have layers of security. We can open up the bar but lock away the alcohol. We can open up the alcohol if the person has the appropriate license to sell it. If the football club wanted to sell it, we would probably send one of our volunteers in to do the selling for them and come some sort of agreement for regulation. So there are policies in place. It's not just a free call.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a few questions, please. First, I'll just make an observation. You said you didn't have noise other than the radio behind the bar. Yeah, but there's no application for regulated entertainment. The radio behind the bar is regarded as incidental noise and doesn't require license. First question is that you covered your plans for Challenge 25.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that you're not making sales to, say, local ne'er-do-wells who have no connection to the cricket club?
It's a fair question. We tend to know the people that are there in terms of the players, the coaches, the parents. We're quite a tight-knit club. Obviously, you will have random spectators and you will have visiting teams and their entourage. So there's an element of common sense to be taken into account there. I mean, if we saw a gang of teenagers walking in and looking to buy alcohol, that would obviously be a red flag, and that's been included in our training. We have to take an element of common sense. Technically, anyone can buy a beer there, but it's our intention that it is related to pub activities. So we.
Okay, and from what you said, it's crossed my mind that we could actually put a couple of extra conditions in. I don't know whether you would agree to them or not. One is that sale of alcohol will only take place on days where cricket activity or functions are taking place on that day or have taken place on that day, to allow you to carry on into the evenings. Is that a reasonable condition?
I don't know if the parish council have that same intention.
And outside of the period, well, I'll pick the dates, the 15th of April to the 30th of September, alcohol can only be sold with the written permission of the Goring Parish Council.
That's pretty much what we expected.
That's not my decision to put those, but
we wouldn't object to that.
I'll just throw those out there.
If that's fine.
Yeah, I've got no further questions.
So you said that you have a football club who obviously
Yes.
have access to the. They said, but this suggested condition would stop them being able to bring their own beer in and sell it because this license is for the premises, isn't it? It's not for the cricket club as such. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, at the moment, as the application stands, sale of alcohol can be made to anyone.
So the football club could bring.
Yes, yeah, Brett there, and Mr. McNeil as the DPS, he is responsible
Right.
for the sale of all that alcohol. So if there's any problems with the football club buying excess alcohol, that's on Mr. McNeil's head.
Yeah.
So that, okay, fine. I'm not, so to Richard's point, it's very much the council's policy that they will support over local clubs, but no club can take an action that solely benefits them. So, our bar has to be made available to other clubs
Yes.
if they request it and it is suitable. So if say tennis club asks to use the bar during a cricket match, the council would say, well, that's not possible. Have use. But there are situations where people make up parties or meetings within the pavilion.
Yes.
If that's at a time when there's no cricket activity happening, then the clerk will speak to us. We will say that should be fine. If the further question was, can they use the bar facilities? Well, that would only be possible if the designated president, supervisor, or one of their trained individuals. If you approved it and trained individuals were present to say, in theory, yes, but in practice during late April to late September, the usage by other clubs of the pavilion itself is limited to the cricket club and the bowls club that have on screen next.
And on that point, I might request that restriction is not laid down at this level, because it would then make the other clubs. So
Yes, yeah, I'm just thinking there are ways of rewording it to,
we would still expect to ask the parish council.
yes, I was going to say during that time, but other usage approved by the parish council.
That would be, I think, more prevalent.
And I think it's worth noting on the football club because they have the majority usage of the calendar year. So from as soon as we stop, they take it over and then they hand it back mid-April. The football club are split to there's Goring United Football Club, which is seniors.
Yes.
They play at the other recreation ground in Goring.
Yes.
Goring Robins are
Yes.
ever since 2024, they use the garden recreation ground. So it's juniors rather than senior players that are using it. So while they can't speak for them, but the use of a bar by juniors would be less than a senior.
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah.
So I'll just come, because you answered a lot of the questions that I had. But one is because it's the parents, essentially the facility is for the parents that it's using the ground, essentially. So to the Robbins parents, are they likely to request usage?
So I'm a parent of a Robin, under nine girl. The football matches typically take place in the morning. So I think it's less likely. So with the cricket activity that we expect to see is those that take place in the afternoon, evening, and the training that take place in the evening. So I think they're more likely to want to use the bar facilities to use the coffee, tea machines, and soft drinks than with Smile.
And as to answer the statement in the objection letter, has there been a rise in any crime activities, disorder, etc.? Is that a true statement? Do we know?
None that I'm aware of, I have to say. Never had any crime ever at the pavilion I'm aware of is a smashed window, and we've got the council guards on the window as a result. That's a one-off occasion.
There's been 0 events on any of those occasions where we've had a temporary event notice. No crime-based incidents.
It's a scoring off.
Yeah,
It is.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. And this is really just my own curiosity. You said you had 250 juniors. Are they all from the area?
Predominantly. Some come in from local villages, but I would say 60-70% of the village. Maybe.
That's brilliant. I mean, I'm
Boys and girls.
It was the strategy 10 years ago. How do we grow this club?
Yeah.
It's about building an academy. So I think we maybe the sort of third biggest club in terms of providing Oxfordshire County representative players, which for the size of Goring, we're very proud.
And the second largest girls continue in the county.
So then the parking is not so much an issue.
Exactly. It's been expanded in recent years as well, last year, so it's never been a challenge.
And then the parking point is for people who be there already for the activity, so it's not incremental.
Just to reiterate, the parking is not a relevant
It's not.
consideration.
No, I was just.
I understand what
you know my other hat, so that. Yeah. But yeah, just interested. I live pretty much opposite Aston Road.
Okay.
So, yeah.
We know, but
That's all I've got.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I'll just make an observation. We've mentioned temporary event notices a few times. Yeah. The issue grant of a premises license does not prevent anyone applying for a temporary event notice for the same location.
So the football club could request an event license.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, that's great.
What were those conditions that you suggested?
Yes.
Richard?
Pass them.
Sorry, they're in a bit of a scribble. I'll write them down. Yeah. Because obviously they've changed in the discussion anyway.
Yeah.
So do you want me to summarise?
Yes, go on.
Yes, yeah. So you've now seen my report and had a chance to ask questions both to me and the applicant, and you've had sight of the respondents' original document and subsequent email. So therefore, I'm now asking you to make a decision as to whether the things I've gone through before to grant the license that's applied for, grant the license after modifying or adding any conditions you see fit, restrict the scope of the license, or to reject the application.
Well, for me, that concludes the presentation stage of the panel. We'll move on to find a submission. Is there anything else that you want to summarise with?
I would just say that we're sort of both long-term members of the village. I've been came to Goring in 1987 and long-term member of the Cricket Club, and very proud of what we do in the community. So we're absolutely take our responsibility very seriously.
Thank you. That comes across. Any others coming up?
Richard's.
Yeah, we'll wait. I'll just wait for Richard.
No, I think Richard, your summing up was that you were just
Yeah,
writing out.
Oh yeah, I've done this. I'm just writing out these conditions. Yeah, so
maybe yes. Well, if you read through
Yes,
those
yeah.
again, I think
Yes,
that'd be
yeah,
helpful
we'll-
before we move time. Okay.
Ross, do you pay rent to the parish council?
Yes, yeah, around the annual part of that usage is a
Yes. And the parish council is responsible for maintaining the building?
correct.
Good.
We're in regular discussions with them.
Yes. And do you use the meeting room for sort of social events, or is it looks a bit small? But
So we've held our club AGM there when it's sort of small numbers or
right,
committee meetings, but beyond
beyond that, nothing. Yeah.
That's likely to restrict the usage of the anyway.
Sorry?
That's likely to restrict the usage of that
Yes.
size of it.
Yes.
So,
That's what I thought. Yeah.
yeah.
okay. So if I read what I've come up with, so within the period 15th of April to 30th of September, the license will only have effect when cricket activity or stroke functions is or has taken place, or as otherwise pre-approved by Goring PC.
Can I just ask, 15th of April, is that, what is your
You said late
restrictions?
April.
Yes,
can
in
change
terms of
that
your
to
use,
first.
I'm just wondering about your usage, and although they are two distinct, you've got approval from the trustees, is that from 1st of April, or is it,
it is turned late April to
oh, late April, yes, so 15th would.
that's
would
right. So
be-
yeah, that doesn't restrict itself.
And outside of that, this period, pre-approval of Goring PC must be obtained for any event.
Broad enough.
That's fine.
Yeah.
it seems to dovetail potentially with what obviously the panel will need to consider it in relation to all the other considerations. Thank you, Richard.
So now can I check that you felt like you had a fair hearing?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you.
So we will now retire and make any decisions and we'll invite you back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, in the back. Back, thank you for waiting. After considering the application, the representations received and the officer's report, and having regard to the Licensing Act 2003, Secretary of State's guidance under section 182 of the Act, and the Council's statement of licensing policy, the panel has unanimously decided to grant the application for the license applied for, with the conditions as agreed with the applicant as set out in Appendix B of the report, and the following 2 additional conditions, which are: the license shall only have effect within the period of 15th April to 30th September in any calendar year, on days when cricket activities and or functions are taking place. And 2, the license shall only have effect within the period 1st October to 14th April in any calendar year, on days when Goring Parish Council has agreed and provided approval in writing any activity. And the informatives, public generally, is that any party may appeal against the panel's decision. Any appeal must be made to the magistrate's court within 21 days of the date of this decision notice. This has to be made in a correct manner, accompanied by the required fee. In the event of an appeal being lodged, the panel's decision remains valid until any appeal is heard and any decision was made by the magistrate's court. Responsible authorities, local residents and ward councillors may request a review of the premises licenses if the premises are running licensed activities in such a way as to fail to uphold one of the licensing objectives: prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, protection of children. That's it.
So I'd say thank you. Appreciate your time and consideration.
Very much. I will end this part of the meeting and
Do we want to deal with extinction of public affairs? Second. So for our next report, we will, it's a private, so we will.
Straight back, yeah.
Yes,
Straight
that
out.
side.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you for the decision.
insurance. So, with our item 5 of the agenda, exclusion of the public. You could read that out, please, Sally, and then vote on that.
Almost feel like I need to go back in. I'll just sign the name on the agenda. Panel is asked to consider whether to exclude members of the press and public from the meeting for the following items of business under section 100A, section 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, and as amended by the Local Government Access to Information Variation Order 2006, on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act, and the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Agreed?
Yeah, that's fine.
All in favour of exclusion? All in favour of exclusion? Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'll switch off to the roll. A second.
I will say though, it's a bit just